We're just going to give everyone a few minutes to join and make sure everyone can hear us. So, yeah. Good. If you can just let us know in the chat if you can hear us, that would be awesome. Yeah. What, how have you prepped a lot for today?
Yeah, loads of prep. We basically went through it last night, didn't we?
Yeah.
Let's do the same again.
Yeah.
That's why.
No, that's the best bit. That's what we should have done. Absolutely. We're just going to give it a couple more minutes. Oh, I think it's going to be good. Are you interested in doing more of these?
Yeah. Exciting.
Yeah, different. Gets you out of the house. So.
Lovely travel to Leeds.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll make it in Reading next time.
Yeah, a bit closer would be nice.
Yeah. Well, that could be long.
Sorry, closer for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can still drive.
Yeah. Be nice. Just going to be like you and ring people on the way back.
Yeah. Phone call drive, exactly.
Yeah.
Remote office.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right. We're ready to go. Good morning and welcome to our webinar just about strategies to overcome the critical engineer shortage. My name is Vicky Park. I'm Director of Customer Success here at Simpro. And one of the things that we're hearing quite a lot of when we're talking to our customers is retaining talent is a real struggle. Retaining good talent is a real struggle, but also attracting new talent. And it's definitely something that the team are hearing time and time again. So I'm really excited to have Reece and Rich here to talk about, what they've done within their businesses. Over the next 45 minutes, we're going to learn more about building your own pipeline, retaining your current workforce, achieving apprenticeship success, and then driving engineer job satisfaction. So lots to cover. We're going to start with some introductions. So Reece, start with you.
Hi everyone. I'm Reece Paprotny. I'm the Managing Director for Amthal Group companies. I've been with the business for just over 10 years. Started myself as an apprentice and worked my way up from there. My responsibilities day to day are managing the business, which includes recruitment, which includes retention. So really excited to get started and talk about the topic for today.
Awesome. Thanks, Rich.
Yeah, I'm Richard Miller. I work at PFS Group as the Operations Director. Been with the company for 10 years now. Historically, sort of involved in the recruitment side, dealing with the engineer shortage has been something I've had a lot of involvement in, having to recruit our trainee engineers and bring them up. So an aspect I'm really excited to talk about. Day to day now, I'm involved in operations, just overseeing the business, keeping our engineers happy, keeping our staff happy. So yeah, a good topic of conversation.
Awesome. And I suppose, would you agree that, I'm saying we're hearing it more from a customer point of view. Would you agree that it is a challenge? Something that you both sort of, have
It's probably the biggest challenge our industry faces, because at the end of the day, without quality, good, reliable engineers, we can't do our jobs. We can't provide our clients with the service that they want to pay us for. So
yeah, completely agree. And I think the industry we work in, we're a service business, right? We don't manufacture our own products.
No.
And like with a business that manufactures products, they invest in their product themselves. Our product is our people. So the most important thing for us is investing in the people. We need to firstly get them on board as we grow, but also retain them.
Yeah.
So 100% the most important thing for us.
Cool. And I know you've both got very different approaches to how you handle this. So Reece, tell us a little bit about your apprenticeship scheme.
Yeah, so for us, we've noticed the shortage, engineering skill set shortage in the industry. There's just not enough engineers to go around, and I don't think there's any changing that. That is what it is. So it's thinking of other ideas on how we can bring people into the business and train them up ourselves. So we've gone down an apprenticeship route. So we tend to probably enroll about 3 apprentices at a time. We partner with Skills for Security, who are a specialist training provider in our industry. I'm sure other training providers are available, just on that point. But yeah, we partner with Skills for Security. We recruit based on attitude, because I think when you're bringing people into a new industry, they're not going to have the skills to go out on the road straight away. So that's why we work with Skills for Security from a training point of view to train the technical side of it. And then the attitude side, if they've got the attitude and they've got a willingness to want to learn and drive, then it makes our life so much easier. So yeah, as part of our business model, engineering wise, we have apprentices. We also do in our office side of the team. I think as a stat, as a business, we're over 20% of our business is past or current apprentices.
Wow.
So it's been a really successful model for us. Me personally, I come through an apprenticeship, so I'm quite passionate about it anyway. So yeah, apprenticeships are a really, really good route to go down. But I know Rich has got some similar kind
our
of
problem's
model.
the same,
Yeah.
but our
Solve it
model is
differently.
very, very different. So it was for us it was 2017, so 8 years ago now. We were growing as a business, but I think everyone in our industry finds that when you're recruiting, you're getting the same CVs, the same names coming around that none of us want to take on because they're just not the type of engineer we're looking for. They haven't got the reliability or the skill set. So we identified those 10 years or those 8 years ago that unless we do something different, we are going to be constantly just looking for engineers. And it isn't easy. You put an advert up for an engineer role, you can be waiting months and months to fill it. In the meantime, you've got customers giving you work that you can't deliver. And at that stage, you're not growing, you're having unhappy customers, you're just sort of fighting fires. You're doing your best you can with the resources you've got. And it just wasn't going to be something that was going to work out for us long term. So where we had the idea of just going to market, trying to find individuals that have never worked in our industry before and bring them up. Now, we didn't do the apprenticeship route for different reasons. At the time, there wasn't an official fire and security apprenticeship out there. So we did what we term adult trainees. So we find individuals, they can be anywhere from 18 to mid-50s. They're looking for a career change. They've been bus drivers, they've worked in garages, they've worked in courthouses, but they want to do something different with their career going forwards. They might have hit the peak there, or they might have just done it for a decade and decided they don't want to do that anymore. So going back to Reece's point of looking for attitude, we're not looking for skill set. We're not looking for someone that's already worked in the industry for years. We're looking for someone that really wants to come on, develop a skill, have a passion for the industry. And the adult trainee route has worked really well for us because where these individuals have gone down different paths and they've not been quite happy with how their careers worked out, this sort of training program that we offer gives them the opportunity to rebuild themselves in something completely different. And you find that they're very appreciative for the opportunity because it is very difficult as you get older to change career, to find somewhere where you can start up again and learn a new skill. And where our industry is so short of people, it is a fantastic thing to be doing just because it really gets us some fantastic people that turn out to be great engineers. And without that, we wouldn't have been able to, quite honestly, keep up with the growth that we've seen over the past sort of 8 years within our business. And it is purely down to the fact that we aren't relying on the market to supply us with the unicorn great engineers that Reece hasn't already got, or some of our other competitors haven't already got. We're all fighting for the same people. So we do have a mentality and approach of let's train our own, let's make our own. Just a different style than what you're doing.
How do you find, sorry Vicky, I'm stood in this here. How do you find like the return on investment from an adult trainee? So an apprentice is a cost-effective recruit because there's different payrolls and legislation for what we can pay them. Whereas an adult trainee is going to come in on at least minimum wage, right?
Yeah.
So return on investment is going to be
you've got your apprenticeship wage for 12 months.
It's 12 months,
so
depending on age.
Whereas we're paying double that or more than double potentially for an adult trainee from day one. I mean, for us, we've got quite a strong training program. So after 6 months, those individuals most of the time are ready to start contributing back into our business. So they will be paired up for 6 months. They'll be learning from different engineers, learning by completing manufacturer courses, industry courses. And at the end of that, then they'll be in a position most of the time when they're ready to start going out servicing small systems and start basically earning the company their wage back in some form. So the return on investment, I'd say within probably 18 months, we've got that back because we've committed to 6 months. Then we've had them out on their own for 12 months. Even during their training period, they're still contributing there. When you've got 2 men needed on a job, then you've got that trainee assisting and providing that, and they're learning at the same time. So it dovetails quite nicely. So I'd say somewhere between 18 and 24 months, you've pretty much made your return on investment. What about on an apprenticeship sense?
Yeah, I think apprenticeships are a very different model. Obviously, they do day release at college. I think it's 3 or 4 days a month, off the top of my head. So that technical hands-on experience with kit, it gets them so far. I think I would say from a personal point of view, I think the biggest learning for an apprentice is when they are shadowing other engineers, which is the same model as what you do, but full time.
Yeah.
But what you get at the end of an apprenticeship is an official qualification to verify that you are a trained fire and security engineer. Yeah. Whereas obviously with us,
we're putting them through the FIA courses or the Zeus courses, so they get a qualification. Obviously, it's different from an apprenticeship qualification, but it's industry recognised, and from as we all know, it's quite hard to find engineers out there that have already got those qualifications that aren't already in a secure long-term role with a good company. Yeah. So either way, they're getting a nice qualification. They're getting the evidence that they have got the skill set to do the job. Yeah. And as an industry, we need to be focused on that compliance and making sure our staff are certified to do what we're asking them to do on a day-to-day basis. So I think both models cover that quite well.
Yes. Absolutely, and it's reputation at the end of the day.
Yes.
So, that real strict training plan and making sure that, they go out with that qualification. It's your name at the end of the day. Yeah. Are there any qualities that you look for when you're recruiting engineers? And it's real different demographics.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting to find out, is this something that you look for in those engineers?
For us personally, it's number one, we have had apprentices that don't drive, and it can be a logistical nightmare.
We both agree on that.
I think we both agree on this point. We're having this chat last night. We both agree that actually a trainee engineer apprentice, if they don't drive, is really difficult logistically. So we do look for someone who drives. Yeah. They can be 17 and just pass their test. That's absolutely fine, as long as they have a driving license. I think there's just one quality. We talked about this yesterday. You can train an engineer the skill set, can't you? The manufacturer training, the apprenticeship. You can't train attitude. Yeah. We recruit on attitude, and that's not just engineering, that's across the business. Mm-hmm. Attitude is the one driver. Attitude and drive to work and willingness to learn.
Yeah, I agree with both of those. I mean, driving is just a factor of our industry. You never know, even if you're on a day of pre-planned work, a call out comes in, you need a responsive team member that can jump in the van and get there. Yeah. And the more engineers you have that don't drive, that does cause logistical nightmares and issues for keeping your clients happy. But at the end of the day, it is about attitude. It is about having individuals that want to, come in and do a good job. But I'd also say as well, even though we're seeing that return on investment within a relatively reasonable period of time, you do want individuals to come on that have got that passion for the business, that loyalty, the ones that appreciate being given an opportunity to step away from what they were doing before. So we're looking for individuals that are serious about making a career change when we're looking for our roles. We don't want someone to come in after 3 months, decide it's not for them, and then they're back to looking for a different career to get into. So we do advocate engineers or potential candidates coming in and doing trial days with us, just having a few days in the industry, which we'll pay them for, and then it gives them an opportunity to see if the role is what they want to be. Obviously, it's only a few days, but it gives you a better indication of what you're signing up for than if you just turn up on day one and you've never worked as an engineer before because you've been cleaning cars or whatever, and it's just a completely different ballpark. So.
We do exactly the same model, and actually it works both ways. One, they get a feeler for the industry and getting out of an engineer, but also you can get the feedback from the engineer they go out with, and they can give you a good rough guide of, do they think they're going to work? Are they going to fit in?
Yes, and it is important. If you're doing an apprenticeship or you're doing the adult training program we do, you just want to make sure that you're investing in the right people. I think that's true of a business in any form, but specifically in these roles, because we are committing at least 6 months of pure training to these individuals. If it doesn't work out after 6 months, then we've been forecasting that we would have an engineer ready to start contributing to the team. If that doesn't pan out that way, then who's going to be picking up those jobs that engineer was kind of factored in to be doing? So it's not going to work out every single time. There are always things that are going to happen in life in general, and not every candidate's going to work out, but you want to be as sure as you can be from the get-go that it's going to pan out in a way for everyone. Yeah. You don't want to take on an individual that might not really be thinking through if this is the right industry for them, because we're all going to end up disappointed if it doesn't work out at the end. Yeah. So that's quite important, I think, as well.
I think the you can teach skills but not attitude is absolutely key in there, and it's the cultural fit as well. You know, no matter where they are in the business, they need to be able to adhere to your company values, and you know, they represent you when they go out there. So yeah, how does it work with the, you know, when you're the mentoring between the current engineers? So you know, you mentioned you've been there for 10 years, Reece, you went through an apprenticeship. How did they feel, the guys who do the mentoring? Is it something they enjoy?
Well, I was talking to Reece yesterday, and it was a case of with our trainee engineers in our service department, we've got about 25 engineers. Only a couple of those haven't come through our trainee program. So it's kind of a self-propelling situation now where you come on board as a trainee, you're being taught by a former trainee.
Amazing.
Some of these guys are more senior. One of our most senior engineers in the business, who was a trainee, didn't work in the industry 8 years ago. So they're used to knowing how to teach people because they know how they were taught themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, individuals are always different, so you don't learn the same rate from different people. But with our setup, we have it where they're paired with different engineers most of the time. So sometimes a trainee might be paired with the same engineer a week. Other times it might be there with a different engineer each day of that week. So they learn different ways, different things from different engineers who might have certain, you know, sort of better experience in one system than another, and a different approach to how they train other people. So they get a real kind of mixed bag. And I think that has always worked quite well for us, because when you turn up at a call out or a fire alarm service, you're not always going to know what you're going to walk into.
Yeah.
So the more prepared you are for anything, the more used you are to working with different people, working on different systems, different scenarios, the better you are prepared for actually having a career in the industry when you are out on your own, being your own engineer.
Yeah.
And then down the line, they would have a trainee working under them for a period. So it just self-propels for us, which is quite
awesome.
nice.
We do a very similar model. So with the apprenticeship, you need to give them exposure to different systems and different sites and all that stuff. So we do have like a rotation. We will put them with different engineers on different disciplines or different sites, just for their on-the-job learning. But what we also do is a buddy system. So the apprentice will come in and they will have kind of one senior engineer who they can call, and the senior engineer supposed to check in with them a couple of times a day. I'm sure that is the case. Maybe at least once a day, we hope, right? But they're supposed to check in with them. So they do have a buddy where they can go to and ask, whether that's technical questions, whether that's job questions, whilst they're also learning on the job of different people. So yeah, it is a really...
It's about having a close-knit team as well. So all the engineers have a WhatsApp group. They'll ask questions in there. They'll call each other. They've got that support network around them. And I think that's really, really key, because where our team, even after they've been doing it a couple of years, Reece, I'm sure will agree, there are so many systems. The industry is so vast that there are going to be so many times they come across something they don't know the answer to, or they're not used to dealing with that type of system. And having a pool of knowledge that you can just access at any time you want is just really, really powerful. So yeah, having that from them having that availability to them is really good as well.
Amazing. And it's two very different ways of, you know, attracting talent. If you were going to give someone one piece of advice around starting up an apprenticeship program or, you know, your adult program, what would you say?
Advice? I would say if there's someone who's looking for an apprenticeship or a company that wants them to start an apprenticeship program, I think it's quite easy to attract, say, school leavers or people like that, because they are ready to go on a journey of their career, and they're just looking for the right career to go down. So I think it's quite easy to attract candidates to come through the door, whereas with experienced engineers, it's quite the opposite. So I think it's look for people with the right attitude. You can go to careers fairs, you can reach out to colleges, Skills for Security, again, other are available. We'll support you with your recruitment journey too. So I think if you're looking to go down an apprenticeship route, I think reach out to the providers and they can absolutely help you find the right candidate. And I think the advice is attitude. 100%.
Yeah, I think it's a case of, because it's so rare to be able to change careers, there are plenty of people out there that are interested in doing it. I mean, and it isn't because we're offering amazing, you know, perks or anything like that from the get-go. It is a case of there are a lot of people. So we'll put an advert up for a trainee role, and you will have hundreds of applicants coming over the month. And that is because people generally want to change career. They just need more opportunities to do so. And I always ask candidates, I say, why are you interested in this role? Are there other things? Have you found anything similar else like this out there? And most of them say no, because there aren't many people offering these opportunities. But going back to your question, in terms of the biggest bit of advice for me, it's about having probably one person in your team. We've got a fantastic service engineering manager, Simon. Without him doing his role and having his knowledge, we wouldn't have been able to build what we built. Yeah. So I do think that is about, you need someone to build it around. You need, like, for our point of view anyway, you need someone that you have full confidence in, that's a good trainer, that's got a lot of knowledge. And then once you've started it off, as I said earlier, it kind of cascades down. Each time you take on more, there's so many more people they can learn from, that it just works. But yeah, without that kind of focal point, I don't think we'd have been able to build what we have at the moment. So. Yeah,
I agree. And, as I've said at the beginning of the webinar, when I'm speaking to customers, so many people are having these challenges. This is an awesome program. And I don't think anyone else that I've spoken to has that an opportunity, to give people.
I was trying to keep it a secret because it's been quite successful for us. But
no, it's awesome. And you mentioned there that you've got someone who started in 2017 and they've been there for 8 years. What do you think, from a retention perspective, like, what strategies have contributed most to keeping those engineers engaged and with the business?
I think from my point of view, it is communication and transparency. We pride ourselves being a transparent business. We're not a massive business. We've got about 100 staff members, so there are many more larger businesses than us in the industry. But we have a very transparent approach. We're privately owned, so we're always trying to take the feedback on board, and we generally do care and want to improve. So we're meeting with the engineers 3 times a year, doing a big engineers meeting, grabbing a bit of breakfast, going through the change in the industry, change in the business, but also trying to get their feedback, trying to get what's not working for them and what can we improve. And then we have other ways of doing staff surveys that we run annually, one-to-one meetings. Every year we do development reviews. It's trying to get all that feedback together and try and do something with it and keep them on board, keep them happy, keep them seeing that there is a good path for them. Some of that's progression. Some of that is making sure training is a big factor. We're very used to hearing from candidates in other sides of the business that they struggle to get training from their current companies, which I think when you're in a life safety industry, and given that they're not asking for training that isn't relevant to improving them in the job, that's a big factor we come up against. But we're really keen to improve training because we appreciate we get that back. The more capabilities our engineers have, the more we're going to keep our clients happy. We're going to be able to deliver jobs on time, solve issues while we're on site, first fix rates, etc., etc. So it is just that communication piece, that training piece, and that just talking to them and getting to grips with what they want and trying to keep improving on every area of the business.
I think for us, we learned a lot. We've been doing apprenticeships for, God knows, a long time. And if I turn back to maybe we used to take them on in 3s. The first 3 apprentices we had, actually only one of them is with the business now. So 2 of them left quite quickly after they finished their apprenticeship. And I think you made the very good point there, transparency and communicating with them, because it's a career journey for them.
Yeah.
And the market, we know, is crazy for engineer labour. The demand's really high, pay is really high. So actually the communication and the transparency with the apprentices is what we've learned. We now haven't lost, I think, the last, I'll call them batch, it's a bit harsh, isn't it? But the last few apprentices, technical term, the last few apprentices we've had are still with the business. And I think there's 2 things. One, our communication, our transparency. We don't just finish your apprenticeship, go minimum wage, because no one's working.
Well, and the market would stop you
the
from
market
doing that
would stop us
anyway.
from doing it anyway, because you go minimum wage, they'll go somewhere else next week because the demand is so high. So I think there's an element of transparency, communication. I also think culture. When you train an apprentice, it's a 3-year course, I believe it is. Yes, they're learning skills, but they're also embedding into our culture. And I think the benefits we offer and the culture, the team they work with is becoming more of a driving factor to stay in a business. Yeah. And when you look at retention, I think
just to add to that, I'd say, because I'm quite passionate that we've got a good support network in place for our engineers, like going back to the WhatsApp group, going back to engineer meetings, all those different things we do. I know from meeting other engineers at other companies, interviewing them over the years, that we're quite strong in what we offer with that communication, with improving things, with doing all of that, that they feel quite safe in the environment that they've got used to. And because they've not come from this industry, They have that loyalty, I like to think, because we gave them that opportunity, but they also know what we offer.
Yeah.
And they know from talking to some of our engineers that have come from other companies, they know that some of the things that we offer and have in place aren't on offer elsewhere. So some companies won't have that support network, won't have those reviews, won't have all that training in place. So that's a good thing. Once you know what you're doing well and you keep improving that, then you just got to keep ahead of what the competition is doing all the time. But I think engineers they want somewhere where they feel valued, but where they're also feeling listened to, and that as a business we're constantly trying to improve the environment that they're in. And as long as we're doing that ahead of what our competitors are doing, then they're happy.
I think listen to is a massive point.
Yeah.
Being on us sitting in our offices or whatever, we don't see what they experience on the road, and actually listening to them, but not just listening and saying, it's doing something about what they're raising.
It's the office engineer divide. I mean, every company has had that conversation at some point, because you got your field team and you got your office team, and you need a way of being one company. So if you don't put the effort into making that happen, you will end up with unhappy engineers because they just don't feel like they're part of something. They don't feel listened to. Whereas they see the office team, it's so much easier just to go and talk to your manager if you're an office worker than it is if you're an engineer. So you have to create these opportunities for them to use. And then that's all part of that communication and keeping people happy. I don't think most people would be happy in a job if they didn't have anyone ever asking them how they were, what's going on, talking through changes. If you were just left to your own devices out in the field because the company sees you as a way of generating income and nothing more, then you're not probably going to be with that company for very long. No. So that's the kind of thing that we have to work consciously all the time to avoid.
Yeah,
it's them touch points as well, isn't it? It's having frequent touch points where you have the forum to raise your concerns or bring up something that's not working, you're not liking.
Well, a lot of times people are hesitant to bring up things, especially in jobs. Some people don't like moaning about what they're unhappy about or upset about. But
others love it.
Others love it. We all know that. But sometimes you have to sort of give them the opportunity to do that. So do those check-ins, and I think there's always more you can be doing of that as well. But I like to think we've got a good baseline that we can just keep on improving from, where we're going to people to ask how that, even if it's in the engineer meeting with everyone in a group, we're going to them and going, right, is there anything anyone wants to bring up? I do think that's really, really important than just hoping someone will say something if they've got a problem, rather than actively trying to understand if they've got a problem.
Yeah. Do you think, we mentioned about WhatsApp and being able to keep in touch, but what about the technology that an engineer would use on a day-to-day basis? Does that play more of a role from a 17-year-old always on their phone and they pick up the tech quicker, but someone who may be in a different industry and tech isn't for them? Do you think that plays a part in someone joining the organisation if they've got a great tech stack?
I personally think that 100%. I think our industry is massively turning, and I say the security and fire side. Security side, the technology is crazy compared to what it used to be. Right, fire's a little bit behind.
Yes,
but I think when we're looking to engage talent, recruit, I think the technology element of our business is getting more and more interesting. Engineers aren't what they used to be. And I think part of the reason for a skill shortage is I personally believe that the technology has come on so far, but the engineer skill set maybe hasn't. And when you're looking at CCTV, IP, that kind of element. So I think it is a massive drive and a massive support. You mentioned youngsters and phones, 100%. I think I even think they enjoy like remotely sorting out a CCTV system and all of that stuff, because they love technology. They got iPads, they got phones, and they can just play around with it.
It's different than what it used to be. That's for sure. So I mean, you can go to the fire alarm system in our office and you can test it on your phone now.
Yeah,
like, that wasn't a thing, even a few years ago. So it's just technology is always moving forward. So I remember back when we started the program, we didn't, have a rule where our engineers had to be laptop trained by a certain point of view. I think it was 2 years after they qualified as an engineer. Now it's within 6 months. They have to have that, because without that, there's so many aspects of the job that they cannot do anymore. And that's just technology moves forward. So you do need to be technically minded. I mean, it's an engineering role, so most people are technically minded anyway. But yeah, if we can channel the passion for young people on their phones, and I'm just as guilty of that, then that's obviously a great thing, and it does play a big role in the industry, that's for sure.
And I think the future for the industry, again, personal opinion, is that we're going to end up as kind of in an IT support function to an extent where things are going to be remote. We're going to be proactive. Technology now allows you to be more proactive than it ever used to be. We're going to end up having a technical help desk in the office, as in a full setup like an IT provider, right?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we can now, on the fire alarm side, now we can see on certain systems that there are faults coming in without even being at site. We can have a look at those. We can potentially diagnose the issue, solve that remotely. That's a big step forward. And obviously in security, that's been the case for a while. But yeah, technology is always moving forward. It is sometimes slower. It seems we're going through a bit of a growth spurt of technology at the moment in the fire industry in particular. But yeah, it's all about channeling that and using those skills.
Yeah.
What role does Simpro play in that? Maximising the productivity of the teams out there.
I've got that. Again, if we touch back on the youngsters and the apprenticeships, I think being able to just spend most of your time on your phone doing checklists is exciting for youngsters, right? They want to be on their phones all day because I think whilst they're doing Simpro, I'm sure they're got YouTube open or something and doing something at the same time because really productive.
Multitasking.
Multitasking, that's what they call it. No, but in all seriousness, I think people do enjoy using a PDA, and I know PDAs have been around for a long time, but Simpro is a newer, modern version of it, a better version of the PDA. So I think it helps from that point of view. It helps us as a business. We were talking about this last night, data. Big word that we were using. I personally love data. And I think Simpro itself helps us with the data. And when we're looking at maybe the recruitment side, how many more apprentices do we need or how many more engineers do we need or whatever, actually having that data to allow us to make a decision is massive. And that's driven by us using Simpro. And I think without that data, it'd be hard to know when do you need your next engineer? When do you need your next apprentice? And it's about that that prediction and then what's the next 12 to 18 months look like? It's not about now. Because if we want to hire apprentice now, they're not going to have an impact now. It's about the next 12, 18, 2 years where we need to forward think. And I think Simpro's data for us supports us with that.
I definitely agree. I think as a mobile app, it's very user-friendly from an engineer point of view. I mean, we've used different technology over the years, but the Simpro app is quite straightforward to use. I think it's just that share of information. When engineers go to site, they're accessing the previous report sheets filled out by other engineers. So they've got all that data. You've got videos on there now where you can just walk through how you're resetting that, and that can all get stored on the job. So our engineers are big fans of using Simpro in general from that point of view, from logging things. But I do agree with Reece, it's the data as well. The office team are able to so quickly see what the engineer's done on site. The report sheet comes back instantly. We're able to send that over to our client. We're able to see how long they're on site versus how long they were scheduled to be on site, and make sure that we're spending the right amount of time booking it in so we can improve efficiency in our scheduling teams and different bits like that. And mainly working out how many engineers we're going to need, because going back to the start, with these programs, they're great things, but you do need to know ahead of time how many engineers you're going to need down the line. So without that data coming out of your CRM system, you haven't really got that capability. You're just guessing. So the more educated we can be, the better, and we rely on Simpro to do that for us.
And I think one of the biggest things for us, and is back to a previous point around retention, is some people like to moan, others don't, right? And maybe the silent moaners are the ones we need to worry about, because they might just leave and just see you later, and we wouldn't have known anything. And I think if we go back to the Simpro data, travel time is a big thing for us as a business. We do a lot of work in London, and engineers don't like driving, even though their job is to drive. Right? It's just how the world is, and travel time works two ways. One, it can annoy people if you're spending hours and hours in your van and not actually working. But number two, for us, it's rubbish return on investment. If they're doing one call out a day and travel for 8 hours. So I think using that data as part of a retention tool too, we monitor and track our travel time. And we know, I think it's just under an hour or whatever. We've got ambitions and plans to reduce that massively, because there's twofold. One, it's a benefit for us as a business. But two, I think them silent moaners that will just pick up and leave.
You can try and avoid the issue.
We can try at least the issue of travel and sitting in your van all day, that it can be a big problem, is reduced.
Yeah. Okay. But we touched on company culture earlier. So what are those key things that you think have led to retention? Maybe not just around the engineers, but the changes that you made within the business that have just made someone go, I'm going to stay here for 8 years.
What do you think comes down to? We really do pride ourselves on the transparency and that genuineness. Like, we're we're not a massive company where we've got a board of shareholders telling us what we've got to do. You know, we're just be able to react, and we're able to talk to people, understand what they want, and constantly improve. We've got everything from a little suggestion box in our office, which some of the suggestions are more actionable than others. I think some people want a holiday to Belgium at one point, but at the end of the day, other things, random. But I think other things, you know, do come through, and we're able to just deal with those and action those and improve that culture, because it's great having a team that want to stay with you now, but you need to make sure that you're keeping pace with that.
Yeah.
And we've gone through a bit of a growth spurt in the business over the past 5 years. So we've got a different setup to what we had 5 years ago. We didn't have the management team that we have in place now, but we need to make sure that management team is dealing with things in the way that I would have previously dealt with them when I was part of that management team. So it is just about keeping that culture going and making it a place where people actually want to work and want to be.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want anyone in our business to not want to look forward to coming into work. I know people aren't sad enough to look forward to coming to work as much as I do, but I don't want them to be dreading that Monday's coming around and you've got those bad Sunday feelings that I used to get in jobs I didn't like before. So it's just about keeping that going, keep improving it, and appreciate that it's never really finished.
Yeah.
Right? The business is never finished, the culture is never finished. There's always more we could do. And it is just about, as we've said before, having those touch points where people can raise things that they want to say, and we're more welcoming of that rather than people feel like they can't put ideas forward. Because I think that's quite a dangerous place to be, because you do end up with those silent leavers that do just all of a sudden go, I'm off. And you're like, that was a missed opportunity to keep someone who was perhaps a really good employee. So
I think there's a tangible and an intangible element to the culture, the benefits. I think if you look at the tangible, for us, we pay door-to-door travel time. For the office, it's more beneficial for office and engineering, but a work-life balance scheme where you basically work 9 days out of 10 and you get 1 day off every 2 weeks.
Nice.
All of that really does help with retention, and then maybe the tangible elements. If you look at the intangible elements, I think they're more important, and that's the communication, that's the transparency, that's the support structure, that's the enjoying coming to work. And they're little things that you need to work on, and it's quite hard to pinpoint one thing that makes the biggest benefit. I think you need all of it. You need that communication, you need a supportive team, you need a good management structure. And I think they are the most important elements to culture.
But they're building blocks that you build everything else around.
100%.
If you don't have a good management team, then you're fighting, you know, a losing battle, really. You need people that are going to support and help grow their team and, you know, provide that to them. So
I think if you turn back probably 5 years ago, throwing money at people and the tangible benefits was exactly what they wanted. They wanted more money. They wanted, I don't know, life insurance, all of that kind of stuff. Now, I think 5 years on, I think that's definitely not as important as it used to be.
9 days across 10 is
9 days
so
across 10 of
beneficial.
work-life balance. Work-life balance is what I've seen the most important thing. I was speaking to someone the other day who works in their roadside mechanic, and I just had a moan down the phone. It's a family member, and he's just moaning down the phone about how there's such a disconnect between the office and the engineers. They don't care and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, actually, you can learn from that. And I think the caring, the listening, the talking is probably the most important.
As a business, that bit doesn't technically cost you any money.
No.
So if you're not doing that, then obviously that's probably the great place to start, because there's no investment needed, just a bit of time. So do that and then build up from there. But I do agree, tangible benefits are there and can provide benefit. The industry is very competitive salary-wise, and a lot of it does come down to salary at the end of the day. But, you know, going back to the adult trainee program, we've seen people that give up really good careers that have, you know, been working in certain sectors, certain business for a long time. They've built up lots of perks, but they're still not happy. You know, they're not happy with where they're working. And that's what leads them. It can only get you so far. That salary and other bits in, you know, if you're not happy in your career, you're not happy in your career. So, that's where potentially it's time to make a change.
And I think the market rate for engineering now has obviously skyrocketed over the last few years. But I think the intangible benefits are more beneficial now, because actually it's a comfortable salary. It's not a bad salary. It's not minimum wage. It's comfortable. So I think that's why other elements are now more important, like your work-life balance, because people can live comfortably on the salaries. But that's why I think the other elements are important.
It's almost like everyone has to level up, right? Because how do you make yourself stand out in the market? I mean, it's different from a an apprenticeship perspective. But if everyone else is doing that, it's how do you stand out? How do you make Amthal and PFS be the place that everyone wants to come and work?
I think it's actioning what you say.
Yeah.
I think it's don't make false promises.
Oh yes,
It's-
that is my favourite when I do interviews. I say we don't make false promises here, because there are again so many people that will go out there and will say anything to get someone through the door.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to think what happens once they're through the door,
Yeah,
and then you don't give them what you told them you would. So it's that's such a key part of developing a good culture, I think.
Yeah, and I think it's the reputation as well, right? It's such a close-knit industry that engineers talk, engineers know engineers, there's Facebook groups, there's all this stuff where people will name and shame companies. Just make sure you're not getting named and shamed, right? I think that's the biggest thing. So
the one takeaway.
the one takeaway.
Reece's main tip.
don't get named and shamed on the Facebook group. But yeah, I think it's making sure you do not make false promises, and actually your reputation, because as we grow as businesses, we're going to need more and more engineers. Some will be apprentices, some will be experienced engineers.
You know, you never, regardless of apprenticeships, regardless of adult trainee programs, you will always need to sometimes go to market and find an engineer. You'll never avoid that completely.
Yeah. Agreed.
Just because there are certain skill sets you just cannot generate. You cannot put 15 years of knowledge and put it in a 6-month training program. So there's always a need to do that. So you must maintain that. But yeah, I agree. Your reputation is important. And if you've got a reputation for hopefully doing some good in the industry, and you know, I like to think that, you know, the more companies that offer these kind of schemes, either version of what we do, you know, we can help build a nice pool of companies that have got a good reputation, trying to give back, because the industry is struggling. There's more people retiring out of engineering roles just generally in this country than there are people going into engineering roles. So it's not just our industry, it's engineering on a wider scale that's the problem. Yes. And a lot of it is just because a lot of people don't know these opportunities are out there. Yeah. You know, we don't, as an industry, advertise these opportunities enough. We don't push enough to do this. So, yeah.
Okay. What do you think your biggest challenge has been while setting up your adult learning program?
I think the biggest challenge has been the fact that you have to acknowledge that when you're growing quickly and you're filling that with adult trainee roles, you are going to have less experienced engineers as quite a big part of your team. So there are always going to be some challenges around you send those more inexperienced engineers to do jobs, but they're not necessarily going to have the skill set to be able to do them or do them to the quality of your better engineers. You have to acknowledge that. You have to accept that you're not going to be able to send, you know, fully qualified, knowing everything kind of engineers to every job. It's just not possible for any of us. But you do have to acknowledge that when you'll send these more junior members, there will be mistakes from time to time. There will be things that go wrong. There will be times when you need to get a more senior engineer to go and meet them. But you have to just embrace that and accept that that is part of getting new people into the industry and getting them up to speed. It won't always be plain sailing. Yeah. They will make mistakes. So I'd say that's definitely something. It can be frustrating when it happens, but that's life, isn't it? That's taking on individuals and then growing and expanding their knowledge.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'd second that. It's the dilution of the skill set. I think as you grow as a business, you need more headcount, and you think, right, I've got a good headcount, but the dilution of the technical skill set is very apparent. But it's working with that, and it's making sure that you upskill. And like you say, actually, sometimes the best way to learn is straight in the deep end, right?
Yeah.
And we've got technical teams on the phone or whatever, so you can send, I wouldn't say an apprentice in their first week, but an apprentice in the first, I don't know, 6 months to a basic call out where they've got support.
And it is technology. I mean, our engineers will call each other or they'll FaceTime each other through the problem. I mean, that's been a fantastic thing for us to do. So, yeah, you have got those capabilities, but yeah, you just have to accept that it's not always going to be plain sailing, but nothing comes without some sort of drawback. So you just have to accept it.
And I think that's just growing pains as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what would be the one piece of advice you would give to someone going through similar situations that you guys have been through?
I would say just do it. Just set it up. Because I will say, genuinely, the most rewarding bit of me being at PFS for 10 years has been seeing those people come from completely different backgrounds in the industry to really loving being in the industry and becoming really good engineers. I'd say my role's changed in recent years, so I'm not doing that recruitment anymore. And that's probably the bit I miss the most, that I no longer do, is just interviewing those people, and they're they're desperate almost for the opportunity to come in. They really just want to impress you a lot of the time and get their foot in the door. Some people go, I've looked up YouTube videos of being a fire alarm engineer, I just really want to give it a go. And then seeing them come in with that passion, then, turn into great engineers. It's just really rewarding. It's really rewarding.
It's awesome.
Yeah, and I think likewise, go for it. I think make sure that the business is set up, you've got a good culture, and you've got the right people that can train and develop these people, because don't go recruit an apprentice or an adult trainee if you're not set up for it.
You have to be prepared to put the time into it. I mean, I definitely heard from a lot of smaller businesses I know in our industry, and they've had apprentices at different times or trainees, but sometimes they're not able to dedicate that time and it doesn't work out. It is tricky. It is really, really tricky. But, you're taking someone who's got a potential passion. So you want to make sure you can support them in the best way to, get them to where they want to be.
Because it's a big investment, right? It's cost to you to get them to where it needs to be, and it needs to be successful. So they don't decide after, what is it? You said it's 6 months to get someone, 18 months for someone to be, get there to show their ROI.
Yeah.
You don't want someone to choose halfway through that to leave, because then you've lost and you have to start again.
And we've definitely had bad experience over the years. Obviously, it's a program. We've improved it. We've learned from it. I remember there was a stage where we took on 3 trainees. None of them worked out. Within 6 months, none of them worked out. And I look back at that. It was quite a few years ago now. But I look back at it and I think, well, I didn't hire the right people at that time. Yeah. There must have been things we could have done differently for a batch, as Reece would say, to not pan out in that way. But that is, there's going to be things you're going to learn along the way, and you're going to improve it. Our training program now is a lot more detailed than it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's just the nature of improving something.
Yeah, and you learn from it. You start off, and like I said at the start, we had a cohort, I call them now, a cohort of 3 and 2 left straight after the apprenticeship. Now we don't have that problem, because we've learned actually, why did they leave? What did we do wrong? What can we do differently? So
awesome. We're almost out of time. I can't believe the time has gone so quickly. We've got a couple of questions in the chat. One of them is, what government support's available for businesses that take on apprentices? And are there any specific grants or financial incentives available?
Yeah, funding. So it depends on the size of business, and I'm no government expert here. But if you are a levy payer, which means you're a bigger business, you will use your levy to pay for the apprenticeship. If you are a non-levy payer, I believe you contribute 5 or 10% of the course. So it's a very, very small investment from that point of view. So yes, there is definitely government support for apprenticeship.
Okay. Another one we have is many service-based businesses are facing rising wages due to labour shortages and increasing demand for skilled engineers. What's your tip for staying competitive while still managing the grown operational costs? I think we touched on things like the raises in NI and things like that. They're having a big impact on businesses.
Yeah, I think for us, we've done a bit of an efficiency drive. So that comes from how we operate office-wise, but also how we operate from an engineering point of view. So it's making sure we've got the right engineers doing the right jobs. That's probably quite a basic step. But we're reviewing how long we're spending on jobs each day. We're making sure that we track things like average home times, things like that. And we're trying to make sure that we're, operating as efficiently, as effectively as possible. But it isn't easy. I mean, rates do have to go up. If you're paying your engineers more, you do have to increase your rates. That's just the nature of business. And unfortunately, it's a reality that we've all presumably had to face over recent years. The NI increases is one thing, but it's definitely not the only thing we've all had to battle. So, yeah, that efficiency drive, and we're using Simpro reporting to obviously do that for us and just try and make sure that we're scheduling the engineers for as much of their day as possible. It goes back to what you said about not spending too much time traveling, because that's just dead money, really. You're not earning any revenue during that time. So we've got to make sure that we're not in those situations. So if we've got to look at the type of work we've got, where our engineers are based, there's no point having engineers based 3 hours away from the contracts we're taking on, because that's not going to be cost efficient to deliver that contract. So it's a combination of various different factors.
And the market rate's out of our control, right? We don't control market rate. Market rate is driven by the industry we're in. And I think you will have engineers that are money driven and will jump every year or two because that's who they are. And I don't think you can change them type of people, but I think you need to focus on the ones that you can retain and actually look at the intangible and tangible benefits we spoke about. And you don't. I think any engineer that works for either of us could probably get another job for more money.
I've
I
always
think-
said that.
I think
Yeah.
that is just
Yeah.
the market.
Mm.
People will pay more because they're desperate. I think we need to focus on that culture, that communication, them intangible benefits. That's what you should focus on. Don't focus on just giving them £2,000 every year,
Yeah.
because you're going to end up in a rock bottom. And also, just off the back of your pricing, don't be scared to increase your prices.
Yeah.
We're all doing it. It's the market.
I mean, at the end
NI
of the day,
increase.
if you can't keep engineers because you're not charging enough, then you're not going to be providing any services anyway.
And you're not
You're gonna earn any money.
sustainable. You're not sustainable.
So there is that factor, and I totally agree. You know, we've got to make sure that, you know, we're not skimping on salaries, but any of our engineers could probably earn a little bit more money elsewhere. That's just a fact. But very few engineers are going to jump ship, so to speak, for £1,000 or £2,000 more, because it's not really worth it. So if you've got enough reasons for people to want to be in your company and stay with your company, then that's what you should be focusing on. You know, £1 or £2,000 more a year, it's not going to make much difference. And if they're in a job they like and enjoy, why would someone risk that for a little bit more money elsewhere? Some people will, and you know, that's what we said at the beginning. You know, we do get CVs for engineers, and they've changed jobs every year. We don't look at taking those people on, because I don't want to pay a hefty agency fee to then be in the same boat next year having to find someone else. It just doesn't work for us from that point of view. So restraint is probably quite good as well. You might be desperate for engineers, but
holding out for the right person.
And we've definitely been guilty of taking on wrong people over the years. So that is definitely a factor as well. Yeah, don't jump into something just because you're desperate. So.
Don't let just desperation drive recruitment.
Yeah,
I think that's one thing we've all learned.
Exactly. Yeah, and you know, going back to why we're here talking about the engineer shortage, having these models just means you're a bit further away from desperation. They're not perfect, because we could win a big contract tomorrow. We need 3 engineers, and we've only got 2 trainees currently going through the program. How are we going to resource that? And those trainees might not be ready for another few months, and the contract starts next week, as they always do. But at least we're a little bit further away from being in a desperation point. Whereas we didn't have the trainee program and we won a contract, needed 3 more engineers, we'd be more likely to make bad hiring decisions, as we did decades ago, because that's just the situation we found ourselves in. So, Amazing.
Okay, well, we're out of time. Thank you so much. It's been really, really knowledgeable. I hope everybody else is going to take something away from that. But thank you for your time. And
Thank you.
Can't wait to catch up again soon.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Cheers.
It was good.